ambulances at our company, so they'd have to go through all that ambulances before they call us right now. Yeah. So you know something's wrong if we get called right now. Any questions? Nothing's off limits. What do I dislike? I'd say my biggest dislike would be the abuse of the system. A lot of people feel like if they call 911 and they use an ambulance, they'll get into the hospital quicker, get through the process quicker, and so there's a lot of abuse of the system. And the reason I dislike that is because it takes ambulances out of service that might be closer to somebody that's actually ill. So it's one of my pet peeves is when somebody does abuse the system and use it for things that it's not made for. The variety. I like the fact that every day I come to work and it's something different. I never know what I'm going to get. I don't know if you guys remember some of the biggest things and some of the biggest tragedies have actually been defining moments of my career and my life. In Manchester, we had the beer distributor disaster a few years ago where there was a worker who came in and there was a mass shooting at the Hartford distributors in Manchester here. And I had just come on and it was a normal day. I was just checking out my ambulance and I happened to be 2 streets over from it when the call came out. And I was the first ambulance on scene, and that was something that really defined me as a paramedic and what I do. So I think one of my other favorite things is the family that you get out of it. So that was a challenging day for me and it affected me in a lot of ways, but one of the things was my coworkers and stuff recognized it and I was able to talk about it and process everything that had happened. So that's, I think, is another one. You get a big family out of the company and out of the job.
Have you been a paramedic your entire career?
I started off as an EMT. So everybody that becomes a paramedic has to start as an EMT. So I worked as an EMT out in, I'm from Goshen, Connecticut, which is on the other side of the state, if anybody's familiar. And I started as an EMT for 2 years out there before I applied to medic school in 2005. And then I went to medic school in Hartford, at Hartford Hospital, and I liked the fact that you can actually live somewhere where there's a grocery store without having to drive 40 minutes. So I stayed on this side of the state and got a job out here. So.
Do you have to go to classes for like?
Yeah, so to be a paramedic, you have to keep your state license, and then you also have to keep what's called med control. So as a paramedic, I am a paramedic. The whole reference is that I'm an extension of the physician that I work for. Just like PAs work for a physician and are licensed under a physician, I'm licensed under the state, but my license doesn't mean anything unless I work for a doctor. So my doctor is Dr. Castellone. He's an emergency room doctor out of Manchester, and he's who I work for. So he requires me to get 36 hours of continuing education a year. Plus I have to keep up all of my other licenses. I'm also I keep my EMTT, which is a tactical paramedic license. I keep up my advanced cardiac life support license, my pediatric advanced life support, my CPR, and my pre-hospital trauma life support. So I have to keep up all my other licenses, which requires me taking classes and working towards all those. But now, luckily, I teach all those classes, so I don't have to take them anymore. So there's a lot of continuing education.
What are your hours? Like, what are your
So most paramedics across the country work 12-hour shifts, 12 or 24s. So I work 4 days a week, and I work 5 in the morning till 5 at night. Because I'm the supervising paramedic, I usually come in early in the morning at 5 so that I can check everything out and make sure everything looks good for the day before I go to jump on the road and work. So typically it's 5 to 5. So you have to get up early.
Are there like certain days of the week that like are more busy? Like?
Yes, so there absolutely are. Sundays are very, very slow. We only have maybe 7 ambulances or 8 ambulances on a Sunday. Mondays are very busy for emergencies. The #1 time to have a heart attack and die is 5 in the morning on a Monday. Random fact. And then the other busy day is like Fridays. So if you're up in a hospital and say you had a hip replacement or a knee replacement or you were really sick and you have to go to a rehab facility to get some strength before you can go home, all of those patients have to be transported by ambulance. So typically, the other reason we're busy on Fridays is that a lot of hospitals are offloading all of those patients to go to the rehab facilities before the weekend comes. So Fridays can be really busy also. But we enjoy our weekends because you can go a whole day actually on a weekend without doing a call. So and we like to not do much.
And so what do you do, like just drive around?
Yeah, so we usually get told to go to a region. We cover a large area, so we're from the ambulance service of Manchester, so we are the ambulance for Manchester and East Hartford and Bolton, okay? And we're also the ambulance for Stafford up in Johnson area and Somers. And we are the paramedic for Glastonbury. Oh, we're now the ambulance for South Windsor. That just happened. Yeah. And then we're the paramedic for Coventry. And then we back up Windsor. We cover a lot of towns. So
You're in like Stafford, whenever you get a call for East Stafford.
we try to regionalize our ambulances. So the ambulance that's up in Stafford doesn't come down here. We usually would, if we're out of ambulances down here, we would call our sister companies in Hartford, Aetna Ambulance. We would call them to come over, or we call like AMR, another ambulance to come in that's closest. So it's always about which ambulance is closest. If one of our ambulances is not as close as another company, we don't hesitate to call another company because it's all about how quickly we can get on scene.
Is there like a line?
Not anymore. Back a long time ago there was. There wasn't so much defined lines on which ambulance could go where, and there used to be some terrible things that were done back then. Like an ambulance would show up, and for say it was one town ambulance, and another ambulance heard the call on the scanner, they would show up and let the air out of the tires, and then go, oh, I guess you can't transport, we'll take them. But the state did away with that. That was back like 60s and 70s. So the state's done away with that, and what they said is there's a PSA, there's an area. And so companies own those areas. So ASM owns the transport area for Manchester. We own the transport area for East Hartford. So nobody else can come in and do a transport. And so that we don't have any rivalries. There is none. And since they did away with that, it's much more of a community. We're an EMS community now. There's no more my company, your company. We're all here for a sole job because everybody has their own areas and there's no fighting. Yeah. But yeah, that was way a long time ago. Just in everything that's new, there's always, I mean, anybody know when the first paramedic really came into the state of Connecticut? No. About 1982, 1983.
I was 2 years old.
So, prior to that, there was no such thing as a paramedic. Prior to 1960s, you didn't get an ambulance. You might have got a hearse or from a funeral home that can come get you. Yeah, but ambulance is very new, paramedicine is very new. So if you think about it, nursing has 100 years on, or plus, on paramedics. So they've been doing this for a lot longer. So that's why it's changing. When I started, the stuff that we carry and the stuff that we do now is nothing like it is today. Every year we revisit what we can do better, what we can change. We change our medications that we carry, we change our equipment. Our skills, I mean, we didn't have the IO gun that drilled into the bone marrow. If we couldn't get a line, we couldn't get an IV on a patient. We didn't have ventilators for our patients. We'd have to bag them all the way to the hospital. So things have very much transformed and changed.